Recording!
Yeah.
That came out way squeakier than I thought. I'm having flashbacks to high school where my voice squeaks every time I say anything.
That's...
No, this was just minor side joke, but then we can get back on. So, marching band. I was drum major, right? So you have to scream.
Oh.
And I would say, like, band, are you ready? And I would do things, and there was one, I would be like, 1, 2, 3, something, and my voice would crack every time.
Yeah.
To the point that my band director gave me an award at the end for my voice cracks, and I was like, I hate you deeply.
That's like cute, but also mean.
No, he was a bully. He was awful. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Clark, if you see this, on site, I don't like you.
Yeah, Miss Sarah, if you ever see this, giving me a solo because I don't audition well, mortifying. Thanks for nothing.
Band director before that, Mr. Sizemore, love you. You are king. I'm so sad you left. You left my senior year. And that horrible, awful man, he no longer works there. He shouldn't.
Miss Lingardo and Mrs. Niekamp, if you see this, which I doubt you will, but if you do, love you. You're the reason I'm podcasting about books right now. They're my English teachers.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh, Miss Applegate, you know who you are. I actually also adore you. Everyone was afraid of her in my high school. I took her. I loved her. She also loved me. It was great. I'm going to say she loved me. I think she did.
She probably did.
We had mutual appreciation.
I believe that you guys loved me, so... Don't dash my dreams. Hello, everyone.
We're just talking about our English teachers. We love them.
Welcome to Book Wishes with a B. I'm Orja.
I'm Colleen.
And we are, if you'll notice the theme in our attire
you can see my full
today.
Shirt here.
After we record this episode, we are going to watch a Twilight movie marathon at the movie theater. All 5 movies.
In one day.
We're
going to be tired.
I'm going to take a nap. It'll be fine.
Which movie are you going to take a nap during?
Probably... Oh, that's a good question. I'm probably going to take a nap during Breaking Dawn Part 1.
Oh, mine was like during her like whole depression thing.
Also that.
Just take a nap during that.
Yeah, New Moon.
Yeah.
1 during New Moon, 1 during Breaking Dawn Part 1.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You have to be away for Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Yes.
Gotta be locked in for that one.
Yeah, I agree. We're excited.
We are excited. Clearly, we're in Twilight merch. Technically, this is a custom shirt that I had made.
Yes, tell them about it.
Oh, so I think if you've watched anything on our podcast, I don't like main characters that much. I don't know what it is about myself. Maybe it's because the side characters don't have flaws. I don't know.
Probably.
That's my theory. I also just think the side characters are usually written better because the main characters are always broody. I just don't like broody people, especially in Twilight, Lord knows. But my favorite is Emmett. And you can't find Team Emmett things ever.
Which is really a travesty.
I know. This is the only one I found on Etsy. So I went on Etsy, searched Emmett Cullen t-shirt, and this gorgeous... You've seen shirts like this if you've been anywhere on the internet. There's some hosier ones that I've seen because I'm a hosier girly. Anywho, so it's Emmett Cullen, and then just various faces of Cullen Lutz being Emmett.
Yes.
In the movies. I really wanted him with his eggs.
But not so, huh?
Not so.
I just got a Twilight shirt at Target. They're selling them at Target again, which I thought was hilarious.
We're old, yes.
I know.
It's now retro.
It is now retro. Oh my god, kill me. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. I'm fine.
It's fine.
Aging is natural.
I do remember how big Twilight was at the time.
Oh, I lived it. I was a twihard.
I was not. I actually did not read the Twilight books until I was an adult, which was a mistake.
I am surprised that you like Twilight in that case.
Don't like the books.
Okay.
I like the movies. This is the true story. I was reading it on my phone. Mm-hmm. Reading and listening, can't remember which one. I was maybe both. I will also state, for a long time I was Team Jacob. Mm-hmm. Team Jacob in the movies makes sense. Team Jacob in the books does not. And I was reading it, and I got so infuriated at everything that was going on, I chucked my phone across the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chucked it.
Here's the thing. I was Team Jacob in middle school and high school, very much so.
Yeah.
And then I reread it as an adult, and I was like, you idiot!
Yeah.
Jacob does nothing but gaslight Bella and try to tell her what to do with her life.
He's horrible in the books. He's great in the movies, I think.
I don't know. I just love Taylor Lautner.
That's probably also... Correct. I also grew up around Native Americans.
Oh,
because I was in Oklahoma, so I kind of felt like it was, like, that made the most logical sense. Mm-hmm. I also do love Taylor Lautner deeply. Yeah. Taylor Lautner, if you see this.
Taylor Lautner, you're the best.
We love you.
We love you so much.
We genuinely actually just saw your We just saw your video, which I got a lot of views on TikTok.
Yes.
Where he's like, he should have ended up with
With
Jacob. And it turns around and
Yeah.
it's you.
That was so funny.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Also giving you very time-stamped context of when we made this video.
Yeah.
But also technically that's an old meme at this point, but it's fine.
Again, we're old. It's
We
fine.
are old.
We are old. Shall we get back to our
Books.
regularly scheduled content?
Yes.
The week of Onyx Storm was honestly wild. Onyx Storm content galore. It was really fun. I honestly am ready to get back to ACOTAR because I think I still need time to process Onyx Storm, honestly.
I have had longer to process
You
it.
have.
I finished it in 2 days. I technically have read it twice.
You have.
Because I read it once really fast and then had to reread it because I read it too fast the first time.
Yeah. I am going to have to reread it. I also read it so fast.
You did read it fast.
So,
yes.
and we've talked about this. Colleen was listening to it, which I cannot imagine. You were listening to it at what speed?
1.7.
That's crazy.
Yes, but I got through it in 2 days.
Yes, you did. I read the entire thing in like 4 days.
Yeah. That would take... I am a slow physical reader. I always have been. I can process stuff pretty quickly auditorily. Like, I had the general gist of it, except for battles. We were talking about this before we started. I tune out in battles because, to me, I like them in books. They need to be there. I don't care about the logistics. And so I missed the last, like, half. And they were like, Zayden's brother. And I was like, whose brother?
Yeah, like, wait, what?
And I was like, what do you mean? So anyway, I had to go back and reread.
So, back to Akamath.
Yes, ma'am.
A Court of Mist and Fury.
Mm-hmm.
We left off last time where they are at the Summer Court and Feyre finally kind of confirms that they think the book is in that temple that gets covered by high tide, basically.
Terrifying. Smart from them, but terrifying.
And so we end off with them being like, all right, stealing the book tomorrow. Dun, dun, dun.
What thoughts about this section?
So let's go to chapter recap, which I actually had time to go through and write myself this time.
Yay, we're excited.
Yes. Chapter recap. All right, chapter 36. The next day, Feyre is taken on a tour of Adriata by Tarquin, meeting his people and pretending to enjoy getting to know the city better, while actually waiting for the evening. Feyre laments the fact that she will be called a liar, thief, and deceiver soon, and hopes that Tarquin would know that the Night Court had stolen the Book of Breathings for Prythian's sake. At dinner, Rhysand mentions leaving for the Night Court the next afternoon in hopes of covering for their early departure. Feyre has a moment where she almost falls to her knees to beg for forgiveness because Tarquin is just so sweet and kind and wonderful. But she doesn't. Rhys is like, don't do it. with his hand. He's like, his face is cool, but he puts his hand on her back and is like, don't do it.
I probably would have. I would, well, we would know I would fold for Tarquin, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Later that night, Rhysand flies Feyre and Amren to the temple close to low tide and flies off into the night sky to monitor the guards of the city while they go about searching for the book. As they enter the, first chamber, Feyre can feel a part of herself calling from beyond, deeper in the building. They proceed to have to dig through layers and layers of, mud and muck, and there's, sea creatures scuttling about and, crabs and stuff. It's gross.
Picturing Amren doing that kills me.
Amren is, she's we need to hurry.
Yeah.
She gives no shit about getting dirty. She's like, we need to do this.
Correct, but it's also really funny
It is hilarious.
Because I know myself. She has perfectly manicured nails, and I would be...
She does.
Not to be prissy, but, I would be concerned about my manicure.
Yeah, Amren does not care.
She does
like,
not.
I'll just go get them done again.
That's
I
fair.
don't care.
She is unlimitedly wealthy.
Yes, she is. So they proceed to dig beneath the muck and mud at their feet, and the book is below them. Feyre can feel it. And they finally reach a stone floor with a lead door, and we find out that lead has a dampening effect on magic and can contain powerful objects, which we'll talk more about in deep dive because I have an excerpt to read because it's so ugh.
Ooh.
This section is really fun. Feyre wonders why the Summer Court would keep the Book of Breathings locked and hidden away when so clearly no one has been down to visit in generations. And Amren is like, well, maybe they want to lock it away so that no one can use such power for evil or for their own gain, or they're keeping it as a bargaining chip if they ever need something. Feyre uses the same strategy with her magic as she had done to get into Tarquin's mind. She actually manages to shift herself into Tarquin to get through the first door. Mm-hmm. And it takes a dizzying amount of power to do it. because of the lead, and I think because it's more than she's ever done before.
It's also Tamlin's power.
It's also Tamlin's power, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can feel the great and terrible power coming from the book. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They both, like, physically recoil. They go down the staircase into a hallway that still has water up to Amren's chest because they're, like, now below the ground. Mm-hmm. And Amren's like, hurry up! And there's another lead door, and the chamber beyond that lead door is where the book is. So Feyre has to open it again. They get into the chamber. The chamber's dry. It's like the hallway, the water is like pushed up against an invisible barrier. So they like get into the chamber and it's dry, and they see a dais on a pedestal and a lead box that contains the book. For sure contains the book. Mm-hmm. Obviously contains the book. Feyre can hear the book talking to her, questioning who she is, asking her to come closer so it can see her. And the tide is coming back already, and they fear they are far under the ocean now, so they're going to be trapped, and they're going to drown if they don't get out soon. So Amren's like, you just need to take that lead box with you. Ooh, and then I have an excerpt to read.
Ooh. While you're finding this excerpt, I am going to state that the entire time I read this section, it is just a Dungeons & Dragons dungeon crawl to get to the end, and there's a thing called a mimic that, like, looks like a box or can look like something but is actually a monster, and in my head I was like, it's a mimic. It's not, but I thought it was.
The box would be heavy and cold. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? I flexed my fingers and cracked my neck. I am summer. I am sea and sun and green things. Come on, Amren murmured. Above, water trickled over the stones. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? I am Tarquin. I am High Lord. I am your master. The box quieted, as if that were answer enough. I snatched the box off the pedestal, the metal biting into my hands, the power an oily smear through my blood. An ancient, cruel voice hissed, liar, and the door slammed shut.
Scary.
Chapter 37.
Okay.
Amren manages to open the door, but water slams in and swallows Feyre up in its icy grip. So the water is, like, freezing cold. Mm-hmm. She has a thought that she might already be dead if she was still mortal from the cold of the water. Feyre manages to find her bearings and pushes up to the surface, racing to meet Amren, noting that her water magic responds to her panic and makes it easier to move through the water. The door to the inner chamber slams shut behind them, making the flood of water rise even faster, and Feyre grabs Amren and throws her on her back. Amren is very small.
Amren is very tiny.
Feyre is like, I don't care if this is indignity for you. You will ride, like, I will give you a piggyback ride because you're too small.
You will not die.
Yeah. So she throws Amren on her back, telling Amren to do whatever she needs to do to keep the water at bay while Feyre moves to get them up the stairs. As they reach the stairs, a wall of icy water pours down and Feyre sees the door above slide shut. They are trapped underwater.
Terrifying.
As Feyre and Amren swim to the door and fight with everything they have to open it, it's suddenly ripped away, and Feyre sees, quote, 3 beautiful, ethereal faces hissing through fish's teeth, and their spindly, webbed fingers snatch Feyre and Amren into their arms. Feyre, like, at this moment, Feyre breaks and has, like, her lungs are burning, and she, like, takes in a gasp of water, because she's underwater, and then they're, like, hurtled through, they're moving so fast through the water, like her eyes are burning from the water moving so fast past them. And they're brought up to the surface, and someone, like, punches her stomach to force the water out, and she notices that Amren's also vomiting seawater out, but they're breathing. They're alive. It was the water wraiths. The water wraiths make sure that Feyre and Amren are alive, and one says, our sister's debt is paid, and then they're gone. Feyre and Amren reach the shore and collapse. Rhysand finally shows up and asks Feyre and Aaron, he's like, what are you doing? Because they're, like, collapsed on the shore.
I would kill him.
Aaron is very upset.
She is. Yes. She has the correct response.
She does. So Aaron was like, where the hell were you?
Yeah.
Right? Apparently they set off every single trigger in the temple. And so he was flying around trying to knock out the guards that were running to raise the alarms.
I feel... we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I have some thoughts about this whole section.
Yeah. So he's like, what were you doing? And basically, Amren is like, the thing basically nullified my powers, and we almost drowned. And Rhysand is like, I couldn't feel it through the bond. And Amren was like, honestly, it probably nullified the bond, too, which I hadn't caught before, which is interesting, which we need to talk about in a later episode.
Yes, I was thinking that. I was like, wait.
Yeah, correct. Never picked that up before. Rhys admits that he missed some guards, and they turn to see people darting about the castle, and then they're suddenly winnowed back into the townhouse foyer.
Such a dummy.
They, he is. They, winnow back and collapse onto the townhouse floor, spraying sand and water all over the place. And Cassian, jumps up and is like, what the hell?
You know Cassian is thinking, and I got kicked out of the summer court?
Yeah.
I'm the problem? Should have taken me.
Rhys informs him that he's also waiting for an explanation. How did they survive? And Amren is like, explain now. Okay, so Feyre tells the Inner Circle about Tithe and the Water Wraith, who she gave her jewelry to. And Amren starts laughing. And then she says the best thing ever, and I have to quote it because it's so funny. Only an immortal with a mortal heart would have given one of those horrible beasts the money. It's so... Amren laughed again, her dark hair plastered with sand and seaweed. For a moment, she even looked human. Whatever luck you live by, girl. Thank the cauldron for it. Feyre starts laughing as well, like a real laugh. I think it might be the first time she's truly laughed since she left. And then they're just sitting on the floor laughing, and Rhysand is like, excuse me.
Rhys and Cass are like, what?
Feyre shows the Inner Circle the box with the book inside, and they are all similarly repulsed by the power within. Rhys asks Feyre to open it, so she lays her hand atop the book and has a fun little conversation with it. The book gives Cheshire Cat vibes.
It does.
It speaks in riddles that you're just okay. Finally, the book says, like calls to like, made and unmade, and babbles a bit before calling Feyre Cursebreaker and opening. The book is not a book in the sense that it's not paper, but rather made of metal, and the words engraved into the pages are in a language that no one knows. Amren says it's no language of their world. It is the Leshan Hakadesh, or the Holy Tongue, and Amren apparently knows it, or used to know it.
Casual.
And it becomes clear that she has some stake in this endeavor that led Rhysand to choose her to hunt for the book after all. And we have to talk more about this. This is going to be spoilers for other books in Sarah J. Maas's repertoire, but not for this book series.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
But I think that we could probably talk a little bit about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It turns out Amren is the only one who can decode the book, and surprise, surprise, Rhysand suspects it has the means to free her from her Fey body and send her home. Which is wild. He didn't tell her because he didn't want to get her hopes up. Amren tells Rhysand that she will need the other half to begin decoding the book. Moore tries to change the subject, but Az interjects that even if the book can nullify the cauldron, they still have a loose end. Jorian, the old warrior whose eye was on Amren's finger, or Amarantha's finger, that disappeared, and basically he's been resurrected.
Terrifying.
Yeah. They wonder, why has the king resurrected Jorian? How does he keep Jorian bound? What does he have over Jorian that keeps him loyal to Hybern? And Rhysand says that he suspects that Jorian is being kept bound by the promise of finding something or someone he's lost, Miriam. We hear mention of Miriam and Draken, and Feyre makes note to ask more about them later, as she does not recognize the names. Chapter 38.
Boop.
Amren leaves to go home, wherever she lives in Valaris, which we do find out in this section, and takes the book with her. And Rhysand launches into the story of their visit while Feyre eats food and then goes upstairs to clean up and sleep. When she wakes, the weather is warmer and more lovely than would be normal in the winter, so she brings the book out to a small garden to read and enjoy. And then as the sun begins to shift in the sky, the garden becomes cold, but she wants to stay out. So she ends up going up to the roof, where she finds Rhysand sitting and sipping some sort of liquor in the sunshine. He seems to be not in the best mood, but invites Feyre to sit, and she notices a small wooden box with a mother-of-pearl dagger on it that smells of the summer court. Rhys is upset. He likes Tarquin and did not like stealing from him. And it turns out that Tarquin is upset as well. He sent 3 blood rubies to the Night Court, 1 for Feyre, 1 for Amren, and 1 for Rhysand, as a declaration that they are now hunted, there is a price on their head, and they will be dead soon. Or at least if they ever return to the Summer Court. Fun fact, the rubies are the size of a chicken egg.
That's a big old ruby.
It's a big ruby.
Mm-hmm. Such a flex on Tarquin's part.
It really is.
Like, I have enough rubies, I can just send them to you.
Yeah.
No worries.
It really is. On top of brooding about all of that, Rhysand is also like, I don't know whether or not I should tell Amren because she will go and destroy the city if I do. So he's just like really, really upset.
Yeah.
And doesn't know what to do. He's trying to figure out what to do. Basically.
He finally made a friend.
I know. I love their friendship so much.
I do too.
We'll talk more about that. I have notes about it for the deep dive. Feyre says that he could apologize and return the book after they nullify the cauldron, but Rhysand says that this sort of feud can last millennia, and he would pay that price if it means helping Amren and saving Prythian. Feyre finally says that she understands the sacrifices Rhys made to protect Valaris, and then she realizes that he's having a bad day. Like a bad day. She tries to lighten the mood. She even gets a little saucy and suggests going down to a store and buying some fun lingerie, but Rhysand says he's not in the mood. Feyre realizes that Rhys had stayed with her and fought for her through her depression, using everything in his power to help her feel again, and she wants to stay by his side and help him through his bad day as well. They get a little flirty. She manages to, cajole him out of his broody mood, and they're suddenly about to cross that, hypothetical line of flirting into, maybe actually doing something, and then Azriel slams down onto the roof, saving them both. As soon as I entered the dimness of the stairwell, the heat rushed from me, leaving a sick, cold feeling in my stomach. There was flirting, and then there was this. I had loved Tamlin, loved him so much I had not minded destroying myself for him. And then everything had happened, and now I was here, and I might very well have gone to that pretty shop with Rhysand. She is starting to feel things, real things.
She has feelings, which is fair. He's lovely and gorgeous.
I love him. It's fine.
I do love him.
So much. As she's walking... Oh, God. This part is kind of funny. As she's walking down the stairs, she starts imagining what might have happened had she gone to the store with Rhysand, and it gets steamy.
This is one of my favorite scenes.
Until she walks into a post on the landing and realizes that Rhysand had slipped the vision to her through her downed mental shields. And it definitely affected her. She's like, I cursed at him and then went up to take a very, very cold bath. Later, Feyre has dinner with Mor and they chat and laugh late into the night. As Feyre is drifting off to sleep, she feels the house groan and feel as if it's being warped, and she jolts upright. She notices darkness leaking into her room from the hall and recognizes it as Rhysand's. She runs into the hall and then into his room. He's having a nightmare. She reaches to find him through the darkness, and his skin is ice cold. She climbs on top of him, and she's, screaming his name, trying to wake him up, and it's not working. So she climbs on top of him and, slaps him hard while she's, basically fighting with him to try to get him out of his nightmare. And all of a sudden, he wakes up and, flips over so he's on top and has, a taloned hand at her throat. It's noted that he is not hurting her. He is just holding her because he's like, where am I? Similar to how Feyre also wakes up from her nightmares and has no idea where she is.
Yeah, it's common for people who have PTSD.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Feyre also realizes that he's completely naked.
Ooh.
And she tries really hard not to look below his chest, but she does.
I would.
However, her eyes snag on his knees because there's twin tattoos of, it's like a mountain with 3 stars above them on each of his knees.
I actually love that tattoo.
Me
I'm
too.
gonna be honest. I think it's a cool tattoo.
It is super cool. Feyre realizes that he's been sleeping in the townhouse because he doesn't want the others to know that he has nightmares every night, and he usually is able to keep them contained to his room. Feyre says, whenever you're ready to talk, just let me know, and she won't tell the others. Before she leaves, Feyre gives him a kiss on the cheek, and as she's walking away, another painting comes to mind. Rhys kneeling on his bed, wings drooping, head bowed, a dark, fallen prince.
I've seen fan art of that scene, and it's incredible.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
It's genuinely gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous look.
Yeah.
Yeah, Feyre has great taste in painting.
She does.
Yeah.
And it's coming back to her, which is really exciting.
It's exciting.
All right, chapter 39. The next afternoon, Feyre is visiting Amren at her apartment in Valaris. It's essentially like a penthouse studio.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And I have notes to talk about it in Deep Dive, too, because I think it's a fun piece of, like, her character.
Mm-hmm.
They discuss the Book of Breathings and Amren's progress in relearning the ancient holy tongue. Feyre notes that Amren looks paler than usual, and she's actually brought her fresh blood from the butcher, which Amren is very pleased by. Mm-hmm. We learn that lamb is her favorite and human blood sucks, essentially, which not surprised by.
Yeah, human blood's gross.
We find out that Rhys's tattoos mean that he will bow before no one and no thing but his crown. As they're chatting, Feyre notices that Amren is using her blood ruby as a paperweight, and Feyre asks if Rhys convinced her not to destroy the entire city of Adriata in response. However, we find out that Varian sent that gorgeous ruby necklace from the troves of Tarquin to soften the blow of the blood ruby, and that's what convinced Amren not to destroy the city.
Love that man.
Feyre is like, did you two? And Amren is like, no, he can't decide if he hates me or wants me. And Feyre was like, can it be both? And Amren just chuckles, and she's like, you're right.
She's like, correct. I love Amren.
Me too. The next 2 weeks pass by, the next weeks, like, not 2 weeks, weeks and weeks pass by as they wait for Amren to relearn the ancient language and to hear back from the mortal queens. Cassian goes to the mortal lands to deliver another letter and comes back seething. And I have another note. I have another excerpt to read. I named it LOL Men. I assumed seeing Nesta went about as poorly as could be imagined because my lesson the following morning was longer and harder than it had been in previous days. I'd asked what exactly Nesta had said to him to get under his skin so easily, but Cassian had only snarled and told me to mind my own business and that my family was full of bossy know-it-all females. Part of me had wondered if Cassian and Varian might need to compare notes. Probably.
Correct.
Feyre continues to train with Rhysand on her power, and he also instructs her on the High Lords of Prythian, court politics, and history. Finally, as winter is starting to thaw, Rhysand informs Feyre that the mortal queens will be visiting her family's estate, and they will fly out the next day to receive them. Mora is with them this time, and they await the mortal queens in the sitting room tensely. And it turns out the mortal queens can winnow.
That's also never really explained.
Never explained.
Like,
and
truly.
Like, they just winnow right into the sitting room.
Yeah, they're just there.
They're just there. Chapter 40. A lot happens in Chapter 40 because it's the beating, but I hate the Mortal Queens so much, I literally just glossed over it.
Well, because they're a nightmare.
They are a nightmare. So, we're introduced to the Mortal Queens. They're all of different ages, coloring, height, and temperament. Only 5 of the 6 queens are there because the 6th one is mysteriously unwell. They don't explain it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
The meeting does not go well, but we do get one of the most infamously vague and baffling lines of the series. I am the Morrigan. You know me, what I am. You know that my gift is truth. So you will hear my words now and know them as truth as your ancestors once did. Yeah.
We don't know what that means.
What do you mean, more?
It's never explained. It's a very, ancient thing to say.
Yeah.
But we have no context as to, if that just means she never lies.
Which I don't think so.
Or if it's, a power that she is...
she can speak the truth. If there's, a...
Yeah, but so can anyone.
No, but, kind of when you're speaking in prophecy, there's, a different tone and whatever.
Like a prophetic
Yeah, so,
thing.
When she speaks the truth, when she... capitalized speaks the truth, it's a different, there's magic to it,
maybe,
but I don't know.
It's not explained.
We find out that Draken and Miriam are lovers. Miriam was the one who was gifted immortal life, and she was Jurian's love.
Yes,
but she ended up falling in love with the Fae, and they went and hid away on this island that no one knows of, and have had children, and so there's proof that Fae and humans can live together in peace. They're the proof. The mortal queens are you think we don't know about you, Rhysand? You're evil. Prove to us that you're actually fighting for peace and good.
Also fair.
We do not believe you, so prove it to us. Feyre knows that this means that they're going to have to expose Valaris, and she is not happy about it. And with that, the awful mortal queens leave. And then Elaine says whatever. This is the best Elaine moment.
This is the part where Elaine turns around a little bit for me.
Yeah.
This is the part where I'm like, okay, she finally has a spine.
Yeah. They leave, and Elaine is the one who says, I hope they all burn in hell. Okay. Section superlatives?
Yes.
Drama queen?
I want to say Tarquin, but it's not dramatic.
It's not dramatic.
I don't know.
I don't know that there is a drama queen in this section.
Not really. I think everyone's reactions are very... maybe, Varian for not being able to decide how he feels about Amren.
You know what? Yeah, Varian is a drama queen. I think he wins.
I think so. Drama queen is like a loose term for it. I think he's just going through it.
Yeah.
But...
very dramatically.
Correct.
He's like, I know that Tarquin, the High Lord of the Summer Court, has sent you a blood ruby, but here's some more pretty rubies for you.
I also love that he sent her more rubies.
I know.
As if that's gonna help. Like...
It makes sense.
There's so many other jewels he could have sent.
Ooh, okay. I think maybe the Book of Breathings is a drama queen.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. That is forever and always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't read a lot of the excerpts because it's just a lot of babbling, but the Book of Breathings is like a character.
It's very much that, like, old, like, if it was manifested as a person, it's like that old crazy lady with the bright, like, silvery, frizzy hair.
Yeah.
That you see.
Or the Cheshire Cat, I think.
Yeah, Cheshire Cat's also one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that, like, it's the riddle character.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Craziest thing to happen.
Oh, the entire getting the Book of Breathings. By far the most stressed I have ever been in any of these books.
Very stressful.
It's written in a way that makes me... I'm also have a fear of drowning, which I think is fair.
That is fair.
Makes me panic deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And it's written so well, like, you are there with them while it's happening.
Correct. Terrifying.
I agree. Can I add a new superlative?
Absolutely.
Worst character.
I'm actually curious who you think this is.
All of the mortal queens.
Oh, yeah, no, they are a nightmare. And they don't really improve.
No, they don't. They don't. They actually suck. I hate them.
Yeah, no, they're awful.
They're like, I also didn't, we'll get into it more in deep dive, but not only do they want proof that, you know, the Rhysand is, like, fighting for good and all of that, they also, which is, I mean, that's fair.
I never really blamed them for that element.
But they're like, oh, yeah, you know, we know war is coming, but, like, this little slip of land above Prythian can fend for itself. They're not that important to us.
That's the part that I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, which is sadly common in a war context, but horrible.
It's awful. And they're like, well, if you care so much about them, why don't you defend them? And Feyre's like, we are going to, but we need help.
The answer is we're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also your people, so we didn't want to interfere in your diplomatic
situations. They make me so mad. No,
they're horrible. They're awful.
Yeah.
Humans, from a Fae perspective, humans do suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, not saying that they should have enslaved them. Does not excuse that.
No.
But humans do suck.
Humans are kind of the worst.
They are the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we go to Colleen's Corner?
My corner.
Colleen's Corner. Colleen's Corner.
Okay. I don't know. There wasn't anything, like, particularly revealing. Like, your iron thing that we're going to get into is interesting. The main thing that I guess I always focused on in this section that I was not expecting, I guess, maybe, is the water wraiths coming back. Mm-hmm. Like, I expected there to be, like, maybe something with them. I think Sarah does a lot of, like, foreshadowing things. I don't think this was one I expected, just because I thought it was more of a plot device for her and Tamlin to really have their kind of, like, really big final, like, knockout thing. I didn't really expect it to be, like, a comeback thing, and I liked that it did. I liked that section, and I liked the concept that I think it shows a lot about Feyre, maybe, and I think that's what Amren is saying, of, like, literally no one else, which is also the same thing that Alice said, of, like, no one would have given them anything, and she's like, but I know what it's like to be hungry. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And they're all just, like, looking at her, but they don't know what it's like to be hungry. That's the thing. Like, they don't get it. They don't know what that's like. They don't know the hunger. They don't know the desperation. They don't understand the, like, heartbreak of that, I guess, maybe. And they're like, well, it's because they're gluttonous. And she's like, it doesn't matter. Right. Like, that's their nature. They can't help that either.
Right. It doesn't mean that they should starve.
Yeah, you're punishing them for something that they cannot help being. Yeah. Which I thought is really interesting. And I find it interesting that, like, no one else, like, not Rhys, not Aaron, not these people that are supposed to be, like, you know, generous and kind in this world, give them any sort of grace, I guess, is the best way I can put it.
No,
is the
that's
word that I
interesting.
can assign.
Do you think that maybe that ties into why Feyre seems to be a collector of quote-unquote monsters?
Yeah, no, she likes dark things, I think. I think she views herself as darkness at this point because she, you know, just shredded her soul apart.
I think so, yeah.
And it's just, like, slowly but surely collecting other things. Like, in her mind, she is that water wraith kind of thing, almost. Like, her soul is gone, it's shredded, which it kind of was, depending on how you view a soul. In theory, her body died, and she was brought back. But, like, we don't really know if her soul was brought back with her from that concept. Like, her mind and her body came back. The soul concept, I actually don't think did. I do legitimately, the way that she talks about it, that, like, missing piece, I think, is her soul.
Yeah, I agree.
Left with her.
Maybe at the very least, if her soul did come back, it's like remnants of what it was. Because she did shred her soul to save everyone.
Correct. Yeah. Like, I think that, like, withering on the vine, like, again, some of these are biblical concepts, but, like, it withered on the vine and died kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know, I just like that, I think this is, to me, the most revealing part of Feyre's character, because as we know, on our own podcast, people have some strong feelings about Feyre, and her Frank, and her boiled chicken.
Frank.
And I do think there's a reason that she gets some flack for that. I think there's some choices that she makes that are not bright. There's a reason we have Feyre as dumb as a category for a long time.
Yes.
That will make a reappearance again soon.
It will. This book, it takes a while.
It does.
She's very smart in this book.
She is very smart. There is one section that comes up that I did not agree with her explosive reaction, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
I from the moment I read it, I did not agree with her reaction, but we'll get there eventually. But you'll know when we get there. I have some strong feelings about it. And shocker to literally no one. I have strong feelings about most things.
This is why we have Colleen's Corner.
Correct. I have a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
But mostly I think that her character is a lot more subtle, and what makes her interesting is her generosity. And I think if, not that, like, people that don't value that, but, like, in fantasy novels, right, especially in modern female-led fantasy novels, these characters are, like, almost invincible, right? They're strong, they're powerful, they, like, fight like men, if that makes sense. Like, they don't have emotions, they're strategic, they have all of these things, which is great and I love. Feyre is not that. She fights more with emotion. She does. And I think that's interesting, and I think showing that in this section is something that I think should be pointed out more, and I don't think it's talked about that often.
Yeah, I have read all of Sarah J. Maas's book series. I've read Throne of Glass, I've read Crescent City, and ACOTAR. I did read ACOTAR first, so it holds a very special place in my heart.
I did too.
And when I read the other two, I was like, oh, these female characters are great. I love Selena Aylin. I really do. I love her.
Incredible.
Bryce is so funny.
Bryce is actually my favorite.
Feyre is actually my favorite.
Really? Bryce is my favorite. I probably would react more similar to Bryce than I would to Feyre. I would love to be as soft and lovely as Feyre is. I am not.
That's fair. I react emotionally to everything.
That is fair.
And Feyre is, I mean, there's some debate based upon the winter solstice whether she's a Sagittarius or a Capricorn.
Correct.
But she is at least on the cusp.
Correct.
And so a lot of her traits, I feel very, like, seen in them. The way that she reacts to things feels really familiar to how I might react to them.
Which is great. And
minus the watery bowels. I just can't.
No, that's the one thing about her that I do relate to. This is actually a whole thing that I learned in therapy. Fun fact. So anytime I get nervous, I get, like, digestive things. For me, that is, like, a thing. So I actually was really confused why everyone else was so shocked by that. I assumed this was a universal feeling. Apparently it's not. But anytime I get really anxious, that was, like, fun fact, the first thing that my therapist was like, where in your body do you feel this?
Interesting. See, I feel it up here.
So it depends on what it is. If it's like I'm getting in trouble, it's a gut thing, or like fear. If it's like I'm upset about something, it's in my throat. So it kind of depends on, that's why she always asked where it is.
I see.
Because then she could identify what type of emotion it was for me based on where I felt it in my body. Honestly, love my therapist. Love you. If you're watching this, you're great. I'm not going to name drop you because that's not the point, but love you.
Yay.
So, but the watery bowels thing is watery immediately. Would have related deeply.
Well, there you go. There you have it.
So,
it is a real thing, everyone.
It is.
We should stop hating on Feyre
and
so
just
much
now
for
realizing
it.
that maybe that was not a universal feeling. I just assumed that's how
I
everyone
actually
is.
don't know because I only know how I feel, and for me, that is not how I feel.
Okay.
If I'm nervous or scared about something, it's like all in my chest.
Oh, interesting. See, my chest is not like, I don't really get the tight chest.
Sometimes I feel pressure in my head too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's fun. I mean, not fun, but interesting.
It's fine. It doesn't happen too often.
Oh, wow. I love that.
But,
love mental stability.
Yeah.
I'm actually much better than I used to be.
Woohoo!
But anyway, that's all I had.
Okay.
I love Feyre. I do deeply. I love you, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
love you, so I love Bryce.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Love that girl. Anywho. Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah. All right. End of Colleen's Corner?
Yes.
All right. What shall we do next?
Is it in the deep dive?
Do you want to do the deep dive?
I mean, I'm gonna cover things that we're gonna cover in the deep dive anyway if we keep talking.
Okay,
So I feel like
let's
we
do
can
it
just
then.
move on in.
Let me get my notes back up because I have them color coordinated.
Oh wow, look at you being organized.
I know. Time for a deep dive. I know, guys.
Look at you being type A.
I've been a mess basically. For the past whatever, we found a house. We're under contract.
Yay.
Closing date is March 7th.
Oh, like officially?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm also learning this.
I am going to have a library/podcast studio.
We're very excited about it.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. So up until probably like Thursday of this week, I have been running around like a chicken without a head.
Correct.
And trying to coordinate stuff with the bank, trying to coordinate stuff with a realtor, trying to coordinate with my dad who is in India. So that's been fun. Work has been absolutely crazy.
Correct.
As well. And finally Thursday, everything's sort of settled.
And we
I
saw a
was
plan.
like, oh my God, I have time to be like methodical about the podcast again.
Which is fun, yeah.
Yes. So I have notes.
Love that. I meant to have notes. I honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought I would have an extra 30 minutes this morning, and we did not, so I did not take notes.
See, I was like, I'm exhausted. Let's maybe do half an hour later. But then I woke up when I thought I was going to originally, and I was like, hey, I'm ready.
And I was like, that's great, but I am not going to be as prepared as I thought. I thought I would get ready and have like the 30 minutes to just skim through and take notes. So anyway, it's fine.
That's fine.
So.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about in Deep Dive is the whole thing with lead dampening magic.
Oh, this is interesting. She was telling me about this when she came in, and I don't think that I processed any of this.
So I'm going to read an excerpt first, and then I did a little bit of research, too.
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. It's like the bare minimum, but I did.
No, it's okay. I love, as we know, research.
Yes.
It's my favorite thing. So.
All right. So they get to the stone floor, and the door is made of lead. Amryn swore, lead to keep its full force in, to preserve it. They used to line the sarcophagi of the great rulers with it, because they thought they'd one day awaken. And then, like, every other mention we get of lead is that, like, it's cold, it bites into Feyre's skin, it's repulsive, all of this stuff. And so I was thinking back to the first book, where humans thought that iron deterred Fae, and they were really, really wrong about it. So, like, things get it's like telephone through generations. They knew it was some sort of metal that deterred Fae, got lost in translation. They think it's iron. And I looked it up because I also had only ever heard of iron as like a deterrent for Fae. But apparently, lead is also a well-known deterrent for magic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I looked it up, which Google probably thinks I'm insane. I was like, can lead deter magic? And I got a bunch of results.
No, they do not. That is the least insane thing that's been Googled. You're fine.
So I think there's a few properties of lead. Obviously very poisonous.
Correct, yes.
Obviously very dense. It blocks radiation.
I mean,
because
you have like
it's so
lead
dense.
suits and things that they wear, yeah.
And so it would make sense that if it was dense enough to block radiation successfully, it would also be able to block like physical manifestations of
things,
magic.
Uh-huh.
And if you're come with me here. This is Book Witches with a B.
Yes.
If you're thinking about magic in our world and the types of magic that I think exist, I'm not necessarily just talking about like spells and incantations and stuff like that. It's like the intention and the energy that you put behind the rituals that you're doing. That energy converts into or influences the thing that you are trying to intend it to do. And that's where, like, the magic aspect of it comes in, where it's like, I manifested my job, right? Like, I put so much physical, mental energy into being like, hire me, hire me, hire me, that this is real, that someone left the team that they weren't expecting to, and they had an extra head count and were able to hire me.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So, again, I'm trying to be very logical here. I tend to get excited and I'm like, I'm magical, but I put a lot of intentional energy into that. And so if you're thinking about lead as a substance that's very dense and can block out energy like radiation, it would make sense that it could also block out intentional energy that you are directing at something physically. And so apparently lead can be used to block out like mental manipulation.
Interesting.
It can be used to block out, what did it say? It said something like spells. So if I was going to try to spell a thing, if you put lead around it, it wouldn't be able to get to it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was the extent of my research.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I was trying to think through, so like from like my history, I was a big history girly. That was, I recently brought this up with somebody. I was like, oh, like what was the area of history that you hyperfixated on? They didn't know what I was talking about. I thought this was universal. It was not.
I would think so too.
So I got really into like Tudor England and like Marie Antoinette France. They used a lot of lead paint in women's makeup back in the day.
Yikes.
And I was trying to think, this was like, you're talking about from the magical side.
Yeah.
I will be honest, no less about that. But I was thinking about it from the like germ side, right? So the lead did slowly poison and kill them.
Sure.
Hence why we don't use the white lead face paint anymore. But from like a germ theory thing, because like germ theory, fun fact, is so recent.
Yes, it is.
It's so incredibly recent.
It is.
I would assume lead would repel a lot of, like, they probably did kind of feel like they weren't getting sick the same way that other people were, or like that low-born people were. They just had a coating of nothing was getting through that.
That's a really good point.
I wonder if it's like, and again, I'm not a scientist, but I would assume, again, if lead blocks like radiation, there's a lot of things that it would block from them being exposed to. It probably, so it made them sick in a different way. Like, they had lead poisoning, but it takes a while for lead poisoning to kick in, so they probably kind of felt like this like lead armor, invisible, and kind of that's where some of that like, oh, that witch tried to spell me to be sick, but I'm not, because it repelled magic, kind of. I'm thinking that could be part of where that came from.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So so in addition to like the logical real world applications of lead blocking intentional energy, I think it also was used to block magic in the warding against like spells and hexes and stuff.
Oh yeah, not surprised.
Historically.
Yeah.
So Sarah, good job.
Did your research.
You did your research. You made me do some research.
It's interesting.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's fun. I love that.
Okay, next note. Here we go. Oh, okay. Do you want to talk about the Holy Tongue, the language, the ancient language?
We can.
Okay, so I'm going to read the note so that you know a little bit better what I'm talking about.
Okay, because I was like, oh, what about it? In my head, it's Latin, just so you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Here we go. So they're looking at the book. And Amren is just staring at it as if it were a ghost, as if it were a miracle, and said, "It is the Leshan Hakadesh, the Holy Tongue." Those quicksilver eyes shifted to Rhysand, and I realized she'd understood, too, why she'd gone. Rhysand said, "I heard a legend that it was written in a tongue of mighty beings who feared the cauldron's power and made the book to combat it. Mighty beings who were here and then vanished. You are the only one who can encode it." You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the whole angels thing.
Yeah. So, even just called the Holy Tongue.
Yes, it's very...
It is very angels.
Angel religious based. Oh, yeah.
So, spoilers for
Crescent City?
Crescent City.
Yeah.
Huge spoilers for Crescent City. So
like, incredibly huge.
Yeah, so if you haven't read it, maybe...
And you want to.
Maybe skip over this part.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first hint that we got in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
If you had read Crescent City before ACOTAR. I read ACOTAR first, so I was just like, oh, that's cool. I wonder what it means.
Yes. I don't remember what order these books were published in.
I don't either.
Because I do think Crescent City, maybe the first one came out before the 5th book of ACOTAR, at least.
It did.
But I don't know where in that timeline.
So this is the first hint that quite possibly, very, very vaguely possibly, the universes are connected to each other.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I love.
Because Crescent City has angels.
Very prominently.
You probably remember it a little better than me.
Probably. It has been a little bit since I've read it, so the big spoilers splashing
Super
across
spoilers.
here. So the ruling, there's actually a way that it might connect to Throne of Glass as well that I can bring up as well.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're going to start with Crescent City. So there was one that was kind of debunked by the last Crescent City book that people had about Amren that is no longer...
Yes.
Although there is...
Which we can skip over that.
But there is some...
But
there is something connected to... But anywho, so the ruling faction of Crescent City are angels.
Yeah.
I don't really know. That's a loose term. But, like...
Do they call themselves angels?
I think so. I think it's just maybe not the way... I think angels has very different interpretations in your head depending on...
Yes.
What background you come from. These are, like, holy, reigning, like, godlike, powerful creatures.
Yeah,
So...
like warriors of God sort of thing.
Yes, except they are the rulers.
But they are the rulers,
yes.
Like
they
are the gods of their own world.
If you're from a Christian context, probably like the Gabriel, Michaels, like those
that's what I was thinking.
But more like mythical and less like directly biblical.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Arthurian lore almost kind of angels. So there's these like ruling factions, and there's like this holy tongue. Like it's very clear. We know that Amren is from somewhere else.
Yes.
But we don't know if she's from another time. We don't know if she's from another place. Like, we don't really know, like, she's from somewhere.
She's from somewhere else. We do know there was, because this is also like the bone carver and the weaver, there was a rip in the universe. All of these crazy creatures came in. Most of them left, but some got trapped when the rift closed. Amren is one of them.
Yes.
The bone carver and the weaver are two more. And...
there's a few others that we haven't met yet that I think are also that.
But the fact that Amren knows the Holy Tongue, and now that I have read Crescent City, my mind immediately was like...
I think, I don't know if she's part of, like, that ruling family. I think she is one of them.
Yeah.
Like, one of that, like, race as a whole. But we don't know. But the thing that I find really interesting, which is also related to Crescent City, is there is a character that looks exactly like Amren and is brought up by a different one that looks exactly like Amren.
Yes.
But, like, Amren, that's her fae body that she shoved herself in.
This is true.
But it's interesting because, like, no one else looks like Amren.
No.
Like, they don't look like her. She's shorter than them. And, like, the character that is in Crescent City is also kind of, like, a mysterious...
Yes.
We don't know where she came from.
Yeah, that's right.
Seems, like, almost all-powerful in her own way. So I almost wonder if maybe there's something there.
Right.
I also don't know if we're getting another Crescent City book. I think it was only supposed to be, like,
I think it was supposed to be just the 3.
The 3. So I don't really know... I don't know. That seems interesting to me. Because there's some things that I think maybe weren't fully tied up, so maybe she's intending to do more with us. But would you like to hear the Throne of Glass?
Yes.
Theory. So, again, huge...
Spoiler.
Like,
spoiler.
the final book, big spoiler thing that happened. So, Aelin goes to, like, where the gods are. She opens a rift and dumps them somewhere else.
You're right. That's right.
So that's actually what people think happened, and that's why, maybe not with Amren as much. I think when that rift was open, I do think things were moving, and I think maybe that's what happened to Amren, but I think the Bone Carver and the Weaver, I think they were part of that collection of gods, and they got dumped and plopped, because they're not good.
No.
And they're very, like, haughty and demanding and assume that they should be given all of these things.
Yes.
All of those fit these characters. So that's my theory, because she opened a rift in the universe and lost her power in the process and dumped them.
There's also a theory that that's why in the first book of ACOTAR we find out that the mortals don't have, like, they don't remember their gods.
Yeah, because they're dumped somewhere else.
There's a theory that it's because they've been dumped somewhere else.
Yes.
So, which is, none of this has any ACOTAR spoiler. This is no ACOTAR spoiler context.
No, this is every other thing in the universe.
All of the other spoilers.
Basically, all of her books are connected. We learn that later in the series. So, like, when people are like, why do you, like, you don't have to read all of them, but I think you get a much fuller context.
I think so, too.
For the books. And actually, if you want to read Crescent City, you do have to read ACOTAR.
You do, yes.
You have to.
Yeah, you do.
Because there's a big, like, crossover point with that.
There is.
Or you would be very confused.
You would be extremely confused. So, but yeah, that was, like, I forgot that happened this early in the book series, where I was like, oh my god.
That's fair. This is a me problem. I knew everyone else was really curious about what Amryn was. I am a little bit in the Rhys camp of, I don't need to know. Like, I was truly just, like, less concerned.
I don't care what she is. I just want to know more about
the world as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what it is. So that was, like, I was just very excited.
No, that's super exciting. I'm giving you props for being curious and me being like, cool, she's fun and scary. Got it.
That's fair.
Yes.
Okay. Next note. Look at me with my notes.
Look at you. I love your notes.
Thanks.
They're great.
Okay, this next one is talk about Rhysand's inner turmoil. I have a note. Mm-hmm. This is where I was like, the chicken eggs.
Yeah, the big old chicken. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of fights. This is a section where he gets mad at her for not allowing him to be upset, correct?
Yes.
I kind of agree, but yeah.
I do accept that he also, I mean, it's in a different context.
Correct.
But she doesn't see it that way, where
Correct.
he is not allowing her to sit and do nothing. Like, he pokes and provokes and prods her.
Correct.
And so she's like, I owe it to him to do the same thing.
I see both sides. I do.
So I think maybe not what he needed to be able to brood a little.
He needed a moment to grieve.
Yeah.
And Feyre was like, "No, be happy," and he's like, "I can't.
Yeah.
I can pretend for you, but I don't want to pretend for you."
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. So she goes up to the roof and she sees him sitting there brooding. She goes. And he says, "I debated it for a good while, you know," he said, staring out at the city, "whether I should just ask Tarquin for the book. But I thought that he might very well say no, then sell the information to the highest bidder. I thought he might say yes, and it'd still wind up with too many people knowing our plans and the potential for that information to get out. And at the end of the day, I needed the why of our mission to remain secret for as long as possible." He drank again and dragged a hand through his blue-black hair. "I didn't like stealing from him. I didn't like hurting his guards. I didn't like vanishing without a word when, ambition or no, he did truly want an alliance, maybe even friendship. No other High Lords have ever bothered or dared, but I think Tarquin wanted to be my friend." And Feyre, at a few lines later, a few paragraphs later, is like, "I think you wanted to be his friend too."
It breaks my heart.
It's so sad.
I find it interesting. I think this is one of the first, like, glances we get of, because, like, we've always seen Rhys through Feyre's eyes.
Yeah.
Right? So we've only ever seen, really, outside of in the first book, a little bit, when he's being, like, bad Rhys, but that's with Amarantha, which I think is a different version of Rhys, even not, like, Rhys is always kind of, like, you know, the mysterious, you know, arsehole, but, not in the same context that he was with Amarantha.
Yeah.
There's a reason that people believed he sided with Amarantha. He's kind of always been that cold, distant aloof person. But I think Feyre, which I have a hard time conceptualizing this, because we've only really seen him with Feyre and with his inner circle and how they interact. And I find that interesting, and I think this is the first glance, like, knowing that that's what Tarquin has seen, right? Seeing this cold, distant person, really mostly only seen him under the mountain. And he's still like, "I'll be your friend."
Yeah.
Says a lot, I think, to me about Tarquin, and I think that's what Rhys is seeing.
I think so, too. So, like, the thing that makes it believable for me is that, yes, Tarquin is very young for a High Lord, but he did spend 50 years under the mountain.
Yeah,
He saw it all, and he saw the previous High Lord get slaughtered, and he saw his people try to escape and get caught, and he saw Rhysand make the decision to kill them instead of
torturing them.
And instead of telling Amarantha.
That he was trying to make it
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah. So I think, like, that information, especially for one so young we don't know a lot about the other High Lords right now. Some of them are probably nightmares. I would assume so.
Some of them are nightmares. Tarquin is my second favorite High Lord.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
We have not met my favorite
We
yet.
haven't. He's great. But, so I think, like, it does make sense that Tarquin would be, like, at least open to hearing, especially when it's, like, public knowledge that Feyre left Tamlin.
Yes.
After dying to save him and all of them.
Correct.
Tarquin saw all of that. Okay, Tarquin...
Tarquin's sitting over here like, what?
Yeah.
The heck?
He's like, something doesn't make sense.
Well, so, also in the context of what we know of this world so far, right? So it seems like the way that this, like, structure is broken up, and I don't really know why, is, like, the celestial courts are kind of together. So there's dawn, day, and night, which is those three, and then the, like, seasonal courts are kind of lumped together.
Yeah.
The two seasonal courts that we know of outside of summer is autumn, which sucks,
Nightmare.
and spring, which currently sucks.
Yep.
And so Tarquin, all we have left is winter.
Yeah.
But we don't know much about winter,
We
which
don't.
makes me think that maybe this aren't as active in the politics. They seem like maybe
Yeah.
they kind of keep to themselves. So
Yeah.
Tarquin's over here like, well, they suck.
Yeah.
I want to be part of that group.
Honestly, I think so too.
And I think he's correct.
I think so too.
What we know of them.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just like, it's just so sad. And like, can I give a tiny spoiler?
Yeah, it's fine.
Tiny spoiler. It doesn't stay sad. It takes some time.
It does not stay sad. I think that I just can't imagine from, like, you know, Tarquin was, like, trying to be vulnerable and,
Yeah.
like, told Feyre, like, and to the point that, like, everyone else in his life is laughing at him about his, like,
Yeah.
his dream and his vision. And you know Cressida. Is it Cressida?
Yes.
Gave him so much hell.
Yes.
When they left, which is so fair, but also, like, and I know, and I know, I think he mentions this, but I know Rhys is probably also sitting here thinking of Cressida and, like, all of the stuff that he did and, like, what he was doing. And then, like, you know, she feels gross.
Yeah.
I would feel gross.
Yeah.
And, you know, he feels bad about all of that. Like, even if they would have asked, I think Rhys still would have felt bad about that.
I think so too.
Just,
Yeah.
it's so sad.
It's so sad. But we do get a happy ending in terms of that. So.
Correct. Something I will also state, if Feyre was not with Rhys at this point, go for Tarquin.
Yeah.
She,
agree.
I, like, not that Tarquin's a better choice, but, like, almost.
Almost.
Like,
Not quite. Like, I do love Rhysand so much.
I adore
but
Rhysand.
Tarquin is so...
he's just so, I love someone who is steady, who is solid, who
Yes.
is caring,
Yeah.
who has a plan, wealthy beyond measure,
A lot of jewels.
loves to lavish wealth. Like, he's truly might be one of the best catches in this book.
He might be.
He's truly incredible.
He's, like, so compassionate, too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's, the wealth is, like, a bonus, but, like, it's a good bonus.
It's a good bonus.
But he also hoards, like, books.
Yeah.
Like, he loves knowledge, and, like, he hoards things that are valuable. And he understands that books are valuable, that knowledge is valuable.
Yeah. He even eats fried fish off the docks after hearing how much Feyre enjoyed it.
Yeah, he's very willing to be, he's like, yeah, I should be, you know, more into my people. Like, got it.
Yeah.
Note taken.
Yeah. No, he's wonderful.
Ah, love that man.
Okay, I think I have just 2 more things to go over.
Okay, I'm ready.
Amren's apartment.
Yeah.
It's basically like this penthouse studio in Valaris. There's I think the bed is the only ornate thing in there.
Which is so interesting.
It's very minimalist. I mean, she does have a bunch of jewels, but
Just stacked.
yeah. And Feyre is like, I would have thought that you would live someplace a little more fancy
Which is a fair assumption.
because of the fire drake nature of Amren.
Yes.
And Amren is basically like, I don't like people. I don't like having servants because they're too nosy. I've tried living in fancy places. It got boring. She's basically like, yeah, been there, done that. This is better.
She's a city girl.
Yeah, she is a city girl. She's very Manhattan.
Yes, it's a very much, there is this, I grew up in a rural more cows than people type area, right? So I very much idealized like Seattle and New York. Like those were like the two, Chicago, you know, those kinds of places. And there was this one Pinterest thing that I saved that I picture this is for Amryn's, but it's not as minimalist. But it was this like up down shot of this like gorgeous, huge, open, like kind of I think it was like penthouse style flat. And I get it. That's still my dream.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's like, so she can see the city on one side, she can see the Sidra,
No.
Is that the river or the sea?
I think it's the river. I think it's like the Rainbow.
Yes, yeah.
River.
On the other side, and like, it's just this like very, very minimalist, like highbrow studio apartment.
Yeah.
It feels very old money, but with like a modern touch. Which is exactly what she is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that quiet wealth.
Oh, quiet luxury.
Yeah.
I could not be me. But
me neither. I'm Indian. We're loud about it. We like our really fancy jewelry and clothes and
yeah, if I have I am not wealthy, but if I was wealthy, I would be sparkly.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
So,
agreed.
Like, why be quiet about it?
Yeah.
Everyone knows you're wealthy regardless.
Right. Instead of being pretentious and snobby, just be like, yeah, but sure, you know. Be like, oh yeah, I'll take you out to dinner. I got you.
I think the concept of quiet luxury to me is so annoying.
It's so annoying.
Because the whole point is like, oh, I'm quiet about my wealth. You were not quiet about your wealth.
No, everyone can tell.
You scream your wealth. You're just pretending like...
You're just a pretentious snob.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Like, eccentric, loud, eclectic...
Love it.
Rich people are... my favorite.
They're so fun.
They're so fun, and they're the people that I want to be around.
Yeah.
Your wealth is here nor there for me.
No.
I could take or leave that.
Except you can definitely take me out to fancy restaurants for dinner.
Please take me out to fancy restaurants for dinner.
I will make up for it with my sparkling personality.
I will also state, if it is genuinely, which I think is Amryn's thing, if it's genuinely like you just feel calmer and better in the space, I am a maximalist.
That's different, yeah.
There's a difference between, like, because I have a friend who is wealthy. He will not say that he is, who is much more minimal about a lot of things, but it fits him, like, just, and that's very different. That's just what he feels comfortable in.
Yeah.
If it's what you legitimately feel comfortable in, that is fine. If you're doing it because you think you are supposed to appear wealthy,
right?
That's where
that's annoying.
I'm starting to be like, okay, then you're not being yourself.
No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Important to note, Amryn is not a pretentious snob.
She's not.
She is just who she is. I
also think she is similar to, like, the people in the Night Court. We're seeing this, and I think similar with Amryn, similar with the Morrigan, similar with Rhys. Cass and Az, I don't really think do, but the court people that grew up in like courtly things have masks.
Yes.
They have these things. Like, even Amryn has this mask that she puts on when she's out and about. Morgan definitely does. Rhys 100% does. I think Feyre does to a degree, but not on the same level.
No.
But they have these like they literally have that face that they put on that they have, and then they shed it like a snake skin when they get home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, fun little insight into Amryn.
No, I think it's super fun.
Yeah. And then the last note,
It's about the Mortal Queens.
Yeah.
Judging by that, gross.
It's great. I don't have anything to read, but I feel like we should discuss them. But I'm gonna let you take this one.
I also hate them deeply. I remember it just felt so human, and I think that's what's frustrating about this, because this book, I think, to a lot of people feels human. It's very Fae. These people are so Fae, and especially in the way that they think, because it's so long term, right? Because they're immortal. Like, we're now in this like immortal long term thing that they're having to compress into short term time because of humans, essentially. Like, I don't think Rhys would nearly be as concerned about when this war is coming. If it wasn't for the humans, they would have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But like, they're just so infuriatingly obstinate about, like, they could care less about other people. They just want to maintain their own power. And it's so apparent, which is not unlike current modern policy, depending, not just in the US, but in a lot of places. Politicians have a reputation for a reason. Not all of them, but most of them. I understand the concept of, because we are human, that once you have power, it is so hard to not want to hang on to that by, like, the skin of your teeth. I get it. That is human nature. That is how it works. At the same time, they are truly the worst. And I picture them as, like, over the top,
Yes.
ugly, gaudy, horrible people that think that they're, you know, the height of fashion. They're in that realm of, like, snobby people that we were talking about, the you know, the height of the pits of fashion. You're just awful.
Yeah, you're just awful. They there are a couple that are described as very beautiful.
Yeah, but, like, they look ugly.
They also, to me, are described, the way that they're described kind of feels like chess pieces.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like, there's two old ones, and they're the opposite of each other.
Yeah.
There's, like, two who...
Like the black and white one or whatever,
who, like, the dark one and the light one, and they're wearing black and white, and, like... And then we don't know what the sixth queen looks like, but there's this, like, golden-haired queen with, like, voluminous...
Could also be the...
gold curls.
Certain types of zodiac signs.
Maybe, could be, yeah.
Like the Geminis, the twins,
yeah.
the big golden lion hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, they do feel very, like, they feel very mortal queen, but they also feel kind of like, legends brought to life, sort of.
They seem...
Not legends brought to life, again, chess pieces.
If I was going to give, like, a criticism about Sarah's writing, about certain things, and I know we're not done with the series, but I think, like, we never really get a full explanation of the queens. They're just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like, we really don't know how they can winnow. I think there's some theories, and I have some thoughts on it, but we don't know why they can winnow. They seem very magical.
They do.
For being mortal.
And they still seem very mortal at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're very short-sighted in a lot of ways.
Also, I have questions.
About?
There is one palace that Azriel's trying to get into of the 6 mortal queens. But in theory, they each have their own kingdom. So how does that work?
I don't think they care. I'm assuming it's kind of, like, similar to, like, Versailles, right? Like, Versailles was the height of Parisian things, and there was the main queens, but they had, you know, like, fiefdoms.
Okay.
Kind of thing, and they all came there. Is kind of my thought on it.
Okay.
A little bit.
That makes sense.
Or, like,
I was kind of just, like...
Or even, like, you know, Windsor Castle or whatever, and, like, you know, because it was, like, the Scottish king and all those people that had to come there, yeah.
Okay.
They're all living there.
Yeah. I was just like,
in
what
a weird
do you mean?
way. No, there's
because you're also talking about the continent, so I'm thinking, like, Europe. Europe is big.
It's huge. Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah. I don't know. It's a plot hole point. I don't think Sarah was really that concerned about them.
Honestly, fair. I would not be either. They suck.
I think it's apparent in the way that she wrote them. I think she made them they're not throwaway because they do come back.
They do. I don't think that she likes them.
She does not. No, she doesn't pay attention to them. She doesn't really focus on them. But I don't think she's not supposed to. You're not supposed to.
Yeah. They just really... Ugh.
It makes Nesta and Elaine and their father make a lot of sense if that is... I think it gives us a really interesting... Because the only, like, glimpse of, like, human culture that we have is, like, Isaac and Feyre and some of the things. And, like, we know about the court and, like, what they're dealing with in theory, but I think this gives us such, like, a really good glimpse at what Nesta and Elaine and all of them are navigating through.
It does.
Like, in that wealthy realm, because we really only saw, like, the poorer realms before, and I think it makes them make significantly more sense.
I think so as well.
Because I would also be a nightmare.
Yeah.
If I had to deal with that.
You would have to be if you wanted to, like, live.
You would get eaten alive.
Yeah.
Like, you would be miserable if you did not have some sort of... So Nesta went the, like, mean, cold route, and Elaine went the, like, everyone will be my best friend.
Yeah.
Which is why they are the way they are.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are nightmares, though.
Yeah. Less than the Mortal Queens, though.
Yes. Oh, I meant the Mortal Queens. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. No. The worst.
I think Nesta and Elaine were starting to see, which is the point of them. Sarah is the master of taking people that you hate and making you love them.
Yeah.
She is incredible at it. It is my favorite thing that
good.
she has ever done.
Yeah.
Again, there's a few characters that I never thought I would love, that there's been 2 different ones that I have absolutely abhorred. And she gave them their own book and made me love them by the end of it.
Yeah.
And that is saying something, because I hold a grudge. So...
Yeah.
She is a master at it.
Again, with Feyre, just, like, if we can do a quick callback to how I say that I would react the same way that Feyre does. We have a moment in the first book when she goes back and her and Nesta start to bond, and I think I remember you being like, absolutely not. And I was like, oh, but, like, I would.
I would not. No, I am more like Nesta in that sense of, like... once scorned, never again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Not fully.
I'll give you a couple chances. I do have a line, but I'll give you a couple.
Nesta had an entire lifetime of chances.
No, but that was just the first chance.
Correct.
That was just the first chance.
For you. I get it. I would not have been, particularly with family, I am probably more rigid in that because I love you. I love you deeply. But you are not going to treat me poorly, and I'm going to set up a boundary until you have proven to me that you are changing.
Yeah.
That is just how I am.
That's fair.
I love my boundaries.
That's fair. As we've said, I gotta work on mine.
It's okay. I also went through 2.5 years of therapy twice a week to get mine to where they are.
Yeah. I will say, I went through about 3 months of therapy, and I was able to get my boundaries with my parents.
Oh, gorgeous.
Rock solid.
Which is the hardest to do.
That is the hardest to do.
Correct.
I am consistently reinforcing those boundaries. Mother, dearest, I know you're probably watching this. I love you, and I think that our relationship is way better with the boundaries that we have with each other now.
Everyone's relationships are better.
And I think that she would agree, too.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, because we know how to communicate and because we can navigate with, like, the expectation of this is how our relationship is, it's great.
I personally, which is why, for me, boundaries is the guidelines. So I know how to approach things, and I know what's coming.
Yes.
And it works.
I agree.
I'm not, like, tiptoeing or being really anxious about, like, if I say this or if I do, like, you're like, no, I know where this is. I know where that line is, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
For me, boundaries are incredibly comforting.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not feel that same way.
No, I agree. I think, like, if you think about boundaries as, like, rules, that can be not as positive. But as you say, if you think of them as, like, guidelines.
Yes.
For communication specifically.
Correct.
Like, it's
I
wonderful.
also like rules. I'm going to be honest.
I like rules, too.
I love them. I love knowing. I like expectation.
Yeah.
We are in payroll for a reason. I'm going to be honest.
We sure are.
We are both in payroll. I like the payroll side of it. I do payroll and HR, and the HR side of my job makes me more anxious because it's not as
It's very
set.
gray.
It is very gray.
Yeah.
Which I am okay with some gray. Like, I think life should have some gray. I don't think everything can be black and white.
Yeah.
But, like, payroll is so black and white, and it's so nice. There is actually more gray than there should be, if we're being honest, depending on the state.
Yeah.
But
but it is, like, it's very logical. It follows logic.
Yeah.
You use Excel a lot, which is just logic.
Love it deeply.
Love it.
I had to pull up a Word document recently to make an SLP, and I fell out of my depth.
Yeah, that's...
I was like, I have not written, like, technical writing in a while. That's what I did in college. I did a lot more technical writing. My minor was technically kind of creative writing, but I was like,
no.
What is happening?
That, like, the thought of that almost makes me break out in hives.
It has. Writing down every step of my job process it's necessary. I don't like it. This is the second time I've had to do it, and it's not gone well for me.
Oh, God, yeah.
But yeah, so boundaries are great. I think setting those are good.
Yeah. I was very happy to see Nesta and Feyre get along in the first book. So I am also, I was a little upset at Nesta for how she treated Feyre, but I can already kind of feel her. I think Nesta, in her mind, she was grieving for Feyre. Like, she didn't know what to do because Feyre died, and now she's a Fae. Being. And so I think Nesta did not react great, but I think that she was in grieving when that happened and also a little terrified. And I think that the more she sees Feyre, I'm hoping that she warms up to her a little bit.
I take it as maybe less of a grieving and more of, like, a legitimate prejudice and, like, a racial
possibly
thing.
I think it can be both.
I think
she's grieving for her human sister Feyre.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of... I just struggle with Nesta's... Nesta is very human, and we do see that more later. It's just the way that it manifests is very different than in Feyre, and I, again, totally get it. I definitely have that rigidity. Clearly, if you've watched any of her episodes, we have seen that. But I think grieving for her sister, but I think... maybe the way that I'm viewing her grief is different, of, like, grieving that human loss in her.
No, that's what I think. She's grieving the human loss, and she is not comfortable with Feyre the Fae.
Correct. And becoming the thing that she probably hates the most, well, second to their father.
Yeah.
Hates the most in this world.
Yeah, which, fair.
know.
That one aspect of Nesta we'll never disagree with.
I think that's the thing that I don't know if I have stated this on here before, but my concept of, I don't necessarily ever think that Nesta was quote unquote, if Nesta would not have argued with Feyre about what to do with the money, I would not have blamed a lot of Nesta's actions. Her, like, Feyre going into the forest to fighting without, I don't know if I would have been able to hunt, but I probably would have at least gone with my sibling to do it.
Yeah.
But I truly think Nesta was like, and I think it's part of the reason she was mad at Feyre, is Nesta would have rather starved than let their father get away with being the way that he was. I feel that deeply.
I think
that is the exact same reaction I would have been, and I may have been a little bit upset that my younger sibling was bailing out our lazy, not getting it together father, who really truly should be the person that is taking any sort of steps, and his expectation that, well, I can't, so you have to figure it out, would have infuriated me to the point that I also probably would have been cold and hard. So that aspect of Nesta does not surprise me, and I think that was, but then, like, when she was like, well, I need new clothes.
Yeah, and Feyre was like, well, I need new everything.
That was the point where I was like, that's what frustrated me about Nesta, not her, like, coldness necessarily.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that it's almost 11.
Oh, yes, we have things to do.
We have things to do, if you can't tell, and forgot already that we talked about this earlier. We have a Twilight Marathon to go watch.
Yes.
And I think Allie is here now.
Oh, is she here?
I think so.
Oh, yay. Okay, well, I need to go get her.
We are going to sign off. See you guys later.
Bye. Okay.